And what we're going to do is we're going to write an introductory paragraph, similar to the one we did yesterday. We're going to write it from the bear's point of view. So this is now how the bear is viewing things up until that point where he walks into the observatory, okay? So I'm going to start off with a sentence. I'm going to follow the same skills that we've looked at. I'm going to improve on my sentences. So I'm going to start with the first part, the starry night. Okay, so what he can see. Okay, now remember, because we're writing from the bear's point of view, are we writing in first person or third person? Good, writing in first person. So we need the pronouns of I and my. Okay, so we're writing as if you are that little bear. So my first sentence is, it was a dark night. Boring. Okay, we can do way better than that. So I'm going to improve on that now. Okay, so I'm going to say it was a dark, starry night. So here we can see, all right, I've added my expanded noun phrase, but that's still boring. Okay, teeny tiny children can do that, and we're in year 5, so we can do way better than that. So I'm going to improve on it. So I've changed it, and I've gone for, it was a dark, starry night where everything was silent and still. So now I'm creating that sense of atmosphere of it being very calm, being very quiet, very relaxing, not hinting that there's any form of danger that anything's about to happen whatsoever. So I've still got my expanded noun phrase, but I've used the word where everything was silent and still. Going back to a lesson from last week in our English lessons, does anybody know what skill I've used there? It's a type of clause. Can anyone remember? Hey, well done. Relative clause. That is a relative pronoun. Okay? So although I've used a clause, I've got a subordinate clause, where everything was still and silent is a relative clause because I've used a relative pronoun. Okay? Which, where, who, where, that. Okay? However, I still think that's pretty poor. And you're probably all looking thinking, come on, Miss Humphrey, you can do way better than that. So I'm going to do way better than that then. So it all started on a dark, starry night when the world was eerily silent and still, and the only sound to be heard was the rapid beating thump of his chest. Now, by his chest, I'm talking about the man, because he's with the man now. So it's not his chest, because otherwise that would be my chest. Now, I can hear the round of applause that's coming from all of you, because you're thinking, wow, Miss Humphrey, you've just blown us away, because it's such a fantastic sentence. I agree. So let's have a look at what skills I've used. So I swapped it round. So rather than it was a dark, starry night, I put it all started on a dark, starry night. So I'm setting off on a story here. When it says it all started, this tells me this story is going to send me on a journey. There's going to be a start, a middle, and an end to this story. There's something to know. So I'm going to kick that off with it all started on a dark, starry night when the world was eerily silent. So when the world was eerily silent is another one of my subordinate clauses. Okay, but it's a relative clause because it's got the word when. And I've used the word eerily silent. I'm creating that atmosphere. It's a bit creepy. It's not that nice, peaceful calm where you're at the beach and you hear the waves flapping and it's a summer holiday and you've had 6 weeks off school. It's that you're outside, it's really dark and something's not quite right. It's just not normal kind of silence. So that use of eerily is really going to create that atmosphere image in that reader's mind. So I've got that it was eerily silent and still, and the only sound to be heard was the rapid beating thump of his chest. Now I've got conjunctions in here. Okay, so I've added my and. This one here isn't a conjunction for the sentence because it's when the world was eerily silent and still. The and there is to join that clause together. Okay, that's a separate clause. It's my subordinate clause. And then I've got another expanded noun phrase there for the rapid beating thump of his chest. So not only have I gone from it started on a diary night, so I know that something's about to happen, it's a storytelling. I've now explained it's eerily silent. This is creating a bit of a creepy atmosphere. And for some strange reason, this man that he's with, he's got a rapid beating heartbeat. Now, usually if my heart beats fast, it's either because I've done lots of exercise or I've just walked up and down the stairs and just couldn't cope with it. Or I've actually done some genuine exercise, or I'm nervous about something, I'm worried, maybe I'm scared, I'm terrified about something, and that's the adrenaline kicking in and that's the beating of the heart. So maybe it could be that. So let's have a go at doing one together now. So we're going to look at the section where we open the door, okay? So the metal door opened. Now, how could I make that sentence better? Okay, well, let's use an expanded noun phrase then. So here I've got the rusted metal door, and I've added creaked open, not just opened, creaked open. So again, I'm using that element of atmosphere to create that almost like a level of unease. So I'm actually bringing the reader into almost an uncomfortable feeling and an uncomfortable situation by using the word creaked open, okay? It's not, oh, it just swung nicely open and lots of flowers and rainbows came out through the door. I've got a rusty metal door and it creaked. Doesn't sound like a pleasant place to be. So now that you've told me to do the expanded noun phrase and I've added that additional verb in there, how am I going to make this even better? Right, okay then, so let's have a look then. So I actually have done the same sentence, and like you've just said, I've added some additional information, but I've started with a fronted adverbial. So as the rusted metal door creaked open. So I've now switched the order of my sentence around. So I've introduced the opening door, but I'm going to explain what happens afterwards. So I've got my fronted adverbial. I've still got my expanded noun phrase in that, and I've still got my verb. It says we found ourselves in the observatory, bringing back some painful feelings. Okay. Now we need to improve on that a little bit more. Okay. So as the rusted metal door creaked open, we found ourselves in the dark, deserted observatory. So we're not just in the observatory now. Okay, I left that noun without any additional information. I needed to improve on that. Okay, so I've now added an additional expanded noun phrase, and I also was quite sneaky because I managed to get my alliteration in there as well. Dark and deserted observatory. And a wave of unsettling fear. So we've gone from a rusty metal door creaking open. That's not particularly present. We're now in a room that's very dark and it's bringing back some painful feelings. So I'm getting the impression we've been here before. And then it said that we found ourselves in the dark, deserted observatory. Okay, so that impression from being in the observatory of now being in the dark, deserted one, I bet you just thinking about it now has changed your mind of what kind of story we're aiming to set here. And then we've got a wave of unsettling fear. So I've gone with my emotive language here. I'm starting to invoke some fear in my reader that something isn't right. Okay, and then it said it hung. When something hangs in the air, it's like a blanket, it's like a thick smog. It's a really uncomfortable feeling. And then just to add to it, rather than it just being in the air, it's in the damp musk air. So we've got another expanded noun phrase in there. That's not going to sound like a particularly pleasant environment to be in. So I'm sensing that something's not gone quite right in this observatory before. So I'm giving away all those clues. I'm not saying that it's gone wrong. I'm not telling the reader it's gone wrong. I'm just inferring that it's gone wrong. So I'm using my show not tell skills here with using my emotive language and my vocabulary. Okay. So you guys are now going to have a go on your own. So we're now going to be describing what you can see, okay, from above. So I want you to be able to use a prepositional phrase. I want an adjective, an adverb, a relative clause. I want you to think about the vocabulary that you're going to include. So your sentence is above me were windows. Okay, I want you to expand on that sentence. Okay, so what I want you to do is pause the video and have a think how best to describe that little scene there about what you can see through the windows. Okay, so pause the video and have a go. Okay, well, I'm going to show you my example and then you can compare it to your example and see if there's anything you might need to add or change. So high above me, a dome of clear windows proudly displayed the breathtaking night sky, which was decorated with the most exquisite and sparkling stars. So I've started off here, high above me. So not just above me, but high above me. Okay, I'm a little tiny bear. That ceiling is further away from me than it is from the human. So I've got my prepositional phrase, check. A dome of clear windows proudly displayed. So I've got proudly there, so I've got my adverb, and I've got my clear windows, okay? So I've got some adjectives in there. Displayed the breathtaking night sky. So that breathtaking night sky would also be one of my expanded noun phrases, so my adjectives. I've also managed to be sneaky, and I got in a hyphenated word in there. Okay, this was very sneaky there. But then I've got my pronoun, okay, which I've got my relative pronoun, so I've now got a relative clause that's following along. Was decorated with the most exquisite and sparkling stars. Now I could get rid of that and turn that into expanded noun phrase altogether. It still gives me the same sentence, okay? So I've used all 5 of those skills in just that one sentence. So pause the video and have a look at your sentence and think, is there any way that you could improve on yours? So here is my final paragraph all together. So it all started on a dark, starry night when the world was eerily silent and still, and the only sound I could hear was the rapid beating of his chest. The world was in deep sleep, yet here we were in a place which held so many memories and emotions. As the rusted metal door creaked open, we found ourselves in the dark, deserted observatory, which we both knew so well. Looking around, I could see how some would find such a place spooky and intimidating, unnerving even, especially with the thick metal pipes and the cold neutral walls, but the magic in the room was above. A dome of clear windows above displayed the breathtaking night sky, which was decorated with iridescent, dazzling stars, a sight which was the most beautiful I had ever seen. So I've added some additional information in there other than just the 3 sentences that I've worked on, okay? So I have almost explained that entire opening part, okay, up until that point where they're then in the observatory, okay? So you can pause the video and have a read of what I've written. You can see some of the sentences we've already looked at, and you can see where I've actually gone back and added additional information and other skills, okay? So for the majority of you, you need to be making sure that you're using other skills. So I want you all to continue to write your introductory paragraph, okay? Now remember, it's from the bear's point of view. Now, you'll need to rewrite the sentences that you've just done because you might find that you're going to put them in a different order. So if you have a look at my one here, I started with my opening one, but then I added an additional sentence in here between my first and second one. So you might want to think about how you write your sentences if you want to include other information. So you're going to need to rewrite those sentences up within a full paragraph, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to improve on them as you write them. You know whether you missed out an adjective, you know if you could improve on an expanded noun phrase, you know if you can get a simile in there instead as well, okay? Now, I've sent word mapped home to you for your expanded noun phrases and your prepositional phrases. You know how to do your clauses and you know your figurative language. Your figurative language is your similes, your metaphors, and your personification. Okay, so you've got all 3 of those skills that you know. Remember to think about your emotive language. Use words that are going to make the reader emotional and feel the same way that your character feels. Okay, now for those of you that need to be challenging yourselves more, I expect to see all of the skills that we know. So you know your different adverbials. I expect to see your expanded noun phrases, your prepositional phrases. I want to see if you can get simile in there or a metaphor or some personification in there. And I want you to think about multi-clausal sentences. Think about moving your subordinate clauses to the beginning of your work. Think about the different orders that you can write your sentences in. But I want good quality work from all of you, okay? Because we're only spending 2 weeks on this unit. So it's really important that you showcase the skills that you learn from each of your lessons, okay? So by all means, rewind the video and go back to my example so you can see it. And I want you to have a go at writing that first opening paragraph. Okay, so remember to use all the skills and all the maths that you've got to help you at home and see how you get on. All right, I'll see you tomorrow, Year 5.